This is your moment. Express yourself. Let your voice be heard. This is your moment. The time has come to share it with the world. This is your moment. Express yourself. Let your voice be heard. This is your moment. The time has come with the Latoya Show.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of This Is Your Moment. I'm your host, Latoya Foster, and it's still Black History Month here at This Is Your Moment. And I am so elated today to be joined by my good friend, New York Times columnist, national best-selling author, prominent distinguished scholar, civil rights leader, and the list goes on and on. I'm speaking of none other than Reverend Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. We are about to embark on a journey to learn his thoughts about faith and politics, the recent insurrection, new leadership in the White House, and I'm saving the best for last, his own personal journey that has tossed him more than his fair share of obstacles. But as I used to hear people say, baby, look at him now. All that and more coming up next. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, my friend, my family, thank you so much for joining us today on This Is Your Moment. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Always a blessing to be on with the great Latoya Foster
Oh my God,
and
I
have
am
this
so
wonderful
excited,
opportunity. This
so
is
grateful,
wonderful. This
so
is
honored,
wonderful, Foster.
so
Thank you.
honored.
Mm,
Dr. Dyson, I want to start today because we have so much to talk about.
mm,
January 20th, 2021.
mm-hmm.
This country did something remarkable. We witnessed the first African American woman, the first Asian woman, the first woman of color
Mm-hmm.
sworn in as the Vice President of the United States of America.
It's extraordinary. I mean, Kamala Harris, Senator Kamala Harris, now Vice President Kamala Harris, before then as a Senator Attorney General of
Yeah.
California, a remarkable rise, not meteoric
Mm.
um, per se, but building
Yeah.
in powerful fashion over the years.
Yeah.
And to see her take that oath, such a down to earth,
Mm.
sweet souled, and yet hard nosed woman,
Yeah.
uh, to take that office and to be able to make the difference
Right.
in a deadlocked 50-50 Senate
Yeah.
for the agenda, at least for the next couple of years, for the President of the United States of America is a remarkable thing. The first HBCU graduate as
How
well.
about that? Who can
And
talk about the
first
Divine Nine
AKA,
and
that's right,
yeah.
the first AKA, the Steve, I don't want to get in no trouble. But you know, an extraordinary woman
Right.
by any measure and representing a powerful future because let's be real, Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, put her in place
Mhm.
to potentially become the first female president
That's right.
of the United States of America.
That's right.
So it's an extraordinary feat on so many levels.
Absolutely.
This is your moment. Express yourself. Let your voice be heard. This is your moment. The time has come with the Latoya Show.
After witnessing the recent images of civil unrest, is our country on the path forward? Here are Dr. Dyson's thoughts coming up next. We know what January 20th represented, and we know what we witnessed.
Mhm.
But we also know, because you're here in Washington, D.C., I'm here in the nation's capital too, just 2 weeks prior to that moment, that scene in that very same area was starkly, drastically different.
No doubt.
The insurrection,
Mhm.
the images, we're still watching it, we're still looking at it, we still don't believe what we witnessed. And I mean,
Right.
and that's just in 2 weeks. What
Right.
does that say about our country? Where are we? Where are we as the United States of America? Where are we as a nation?
Well, it's extraordinarily revealing
Mhm.
that this nation endured a coup d'etat, or an attempted coup d'etat, an attempted insurrection. 3 Wednesdays,
Right.
an insurrection, an inauguration, an impeachment. Three
Ooh.
Wednesdays in January, indicated the potential and possibility, and also the peril of this nation.
Yeah.
The nonviolent transfer of power, which was not guaranteed by the former administration, number 45,
Yeah.
because of the petulance, the churlishness, the indecent adolescence that refused to acknowledge that he lost, never admitted,
How
never
about that?
conceded
How about
that he had lost the race, never conceded to President Joe Biden with the kind of protocol and etiquette that would at least ease the path toward his followers of accepting the newly and legally elected president of the United States of America.
Yeah.
So, what that insurrection revealed is that many white brothers and sisters, and many others, but mostly them, who claim to be patriots, who claim to love this nation, indeed are undercutting, undermining the
Mm.
very principles of democracy, the very fundamental trust that Americans invest in the electoral process. And make no mistake, there was no widespread chicanery. There was no widespread, counterfeit processes going on there. It was a legal ballot that was rendered. And those people who stormed the Capitol, incited by, remarkably enough, the 45th president of the United States of America, were attempting to undo a legally arrived at result. They were attempting to reverse the process and product of American democracy in the name of a self centered and vicious repudiation of the grand principles of democracy that they ostensibly and supposedly and allegedly support. And yet they were willing to toss those aside, along with Senator Hawley, along with, Senator Ted Cruz and others who supported these figures. And the president of the United States of America, then the 45th president, Donald Trump, supported these people, incited them to move on from, the mall to the Capitol and to take the Capitol by storm. This is why he was impeached a second time in an unprecedented fashion. So it does reveal to us that though we believed the durability of our democracy is what makes it powerful and perhaps some would argue unique, though American exceptionalism must have died in the aftermath of the insurrection, because we ain't no different than a lot of nations that get mad that somebody's in power and attempts to remove them through illegal and ill-gotten means and ill-begotten means. And this certainly suggests that we are part of that banana republican of the contemporary American democratic scene, small d, and it suggests that we ain't got no real love for that democracy as much as we claim. And we know, had it been black people, we know, had Black Lives Matter and other black protesters and social justice advocates stormed the Capitol.
This is your moment. Express yourself. Let your voice be heard. This is your moment. The time has come with the Latoya Foster Show.
One of the greatest lessons that I've personally learned is that sometimes we have to go through some things to get to a better day and a better place. Could it be that the outcome from the insurrection and COVID 19 could get us to the yellow brick road to better days? We're talking about it coming up next. And that's what I love about your new book, because, just the title alone, A Long Time Coming, A Reckoning with Racism in America.
Mhm.
We're here. Long time coming, but now we are here having
Yeah.
some real conversations about race and racism and race relations in this
Sure.
country. In your
Right.
view, Dr. Dyson, are we on a path forward, or are we still kind of moving backwards? Where are we right now?
Well, it's a dynamic duo. It's a, if you will, a kind of pas de deux, if you will, between American culture and Black people. It's a dynamic dance. It's a back and forth. It's two steps forward and three steps back.
Okay.
And yet, steps forward are being made. I think after the murder of George Floyd, many Americans said this is enough. We've got to join the protest movement. I think many white people were at home because of COVID-19. And therefore, when these images flooded their screens, they were more susceptible and more liable to those images and being moved and motivated by those images to do something about them because they saw George Floyd was laying prostrate on the ground. It removed all excuses and all asterisks. Oh, he must be violent. Nope. He must be dangerous. Nope. He must be cussing them out and being belligerent. Nope. All the stuff they were used to being told and being said was removed. And now here we saw the clear manifest evidence that all of the principles that white America had claimed to uphold, justice, truth, and democracy, had been repudiated by the knee of Derek Chauvin, who choked to death, who asphyxiated George Floyd, though he prayed, he begged, he asked to be let up. He said, "You're going to kill me." He predicted his own downfall and his own murder, and it did occur. And so many white Americans said enough is enough. They flooded those streets. But here we are now, 7 months later, 8 months later, and people are saying, well, what you got for us now? What you doing for us lately? This is not the simple putting a black screen on Instagram or corporations saying that they will, be better. You got to do better. You got to practice better. We saw the recent announcement of the Golden Globes. They were taken to task a year ago for being racially insensitive. And even during this year, when you had extraordinary expressions of African-centered, African-American oriented fare, they still couldn't get no love. And I know a lot of ladies are upset that Bridgerton didn't get any love and a nod either, including my wife, Reverend Marcia Dyson. So they all love that young man and the series. So the point is that, you talk it then, what about it now? Although we know the Golden Globes is foreign, the reality is that the Globe responded to George Floyd. The Globe said racial animus and anti-blackness must die down. America pledged itself to make a difference in the aftermath of George Floyd. So now is the unsexy everyday part. America, most of white America, fell in love with black folk during the George Floyd event. But now, in the aftermath, 6 months later, 7 months later, here we are. The truth is that, yeah, you fell in love, but you got, this is the unsexy part. Are the dishes clean? Are you taking care of the kids? Who's going to drive them to the basketball game?
All right.
Who's going to share in the chores?
Right.
This, are you really pushing the toothpaste from the top and not the bottom?
Right.
And did you leave the toilet seat up and I almost fell in and drowned?
Oh, Lord.
The point is that these are the unsexy, normal, everyday stuff that gets us moved toward a greater goal. And the unsexy stuff of race means, what are we doing every day to make sure that our corporations are paying attention to, diversity and inclusion and equity? How does that work out that Black people are in the room when we make decisions, or that political figures, are elected to be able to register their viewpoint and beliefs? We know it takes hard work. We saw what Stacey Abrams did to try to reverse the purging of 500,000 voters from the polls, and then got those restored in one way or another, and then added another 300,000, which is why recently, given her heroic efforts, she's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize because of her extraordinary commitment to social change without having a bullet or a gun. So we've got to make up in our minds that we're going to do something different and make a huge, significant sacrifice in order to realize those ideals to which we claim to be committed of racial justice and fighting anti-blackness in this country.
Absolutely. And, I'm just sitting here thinking about everything you're saying right now, Dr. Dyson. And I'm thinking about when we're talking to our young people right now, in one breath, we're saying you can be president, you can be vice president, but you could also be killed by just going to get some Skittles and an iced tea, or by jogging, or just being.
Right.
What do we say to our young people to make them feel like they can move forward, even in this environment right now? They see the image, they see the positive, but they're
Right.
still seeing a number of the negative too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There are a great deal of negatives out there. And so we can't deny them. We can't be disingenuous. We can't lie and pretend they're not there. They are.
Yeah.
But we got to say, Black people have been a people of irregardless, right?
Okay.
Irregardless of what is going on, as the
Ooh.
brothers and sisters in the streets say,
All
even though
right.
it's not officially a word, but we know Black people, like, irregardless, not regardless,
Irregardless.
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 That's belt and suspenders. We gonna keep them pants up, dog, and verbally speaking. So we've got to insist that regardless of what we see, irregardless of the extraordinary obstacles that we are faced with, that we are able to uphold a revolutionary tradition that we have inherited as a people. And that means that as a people, we are committed to doing the right thing, making sure that our kids understand the stakes of the debate we're involved in, making sure that young people who are leading us, like Black Lives Matter and other figures, understand that they have our support because young people have always led the way. And we've got to remind younger people that, yeah, you get upset, you vote, it doesn't turn out the way you want it to turn out. You've got to remember that this is often the case,
Yep.
that you don't get it on the first swing or the second swing. It might be the fifth or 10th
That's right.
swing that at the plate that you hit a home run.
That's
So
good.
you got to keep stroking. You got to keep striking at the ball. You got to keep standing up to the plate. You got to keep making an effort. And don't get easily discouraged. Our slave foreparents did not easily get discouraged. They lived through 250, 300 years of systemic injustice, of rape and pillaging and plundering and
Mm,
castration
mm, mm.
and murder and being disrespected and being mistreated.
Yep.
And they still, as Howard Thurman said, looked at the long rows of cotton and the rawhide whip of the overseer, and
Mm.
they determined that they would imagine a different future. That's what we got to tell young people. the,
Ooh.
the, the race is given to those who endure, not to the swift, not to the ones who run the fastest, but to those who continue to understand that it's a marathon and not a sprint.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And that kind of takes us to my next question for you, Dr. Dyson. Could it be that something so heinous as what we saw here at our Capitol on January 6th, sometimes you got to go through something to get to a better place? Could that be the launching pad for for the next chapters, for a better day and a brighter day? Did it take that to happen for a movement to take place?
Yeah, I think another element of the movement, another phase of the movement, certainly was inspired by that horrible, dark day on the mall.
Yeah.
At our nation's capital, the most sacred temple of American democracy for the masses of people, where the deliberations of legislators in the Senate and in the United States House of Representatives goes on, where people go back and forth and argue, predicated upon and premised on their vision of what democracy is. And in those hallowed chambers, we get the chance to see people make laws and create precedent, or at least appeal to precedent or repeal it, to make sure that we're inching closer to American democracy. People having vigorous debate to make certain that their side prevails. So, yeah, in that sense, what we saw was a repudiation of all the best instincts we have as a nation, but at the same time, the determination of others who believe in American democracy, of those who say this will not define us, this will not defeat us, this will not deflate us.
Mm.
And if we are determined that that will be the case, then nothing that happened that day can ultimately dissuade us from our commitment to justice and democracy in this country.
Amen. Amen to that. Dr. Dyson, let me ask you, I want to turn the page a little bit, because as much as I could sit here and talk about those optics we saw on January 6th and the civil unrest that's taking place in this country, we have another issue that's really hitting home. And I know our viewers out there have felt it some way, somehow we've been touched by it. This global pandemic, coronavirus, COVID-19, it's claimed over 400,000 American lives alone. Talk about how we are struggling through this right now, because we have people who are watching right now who have had coronavirus, have lost a loved one to coronavirus, who may have lost a job, a business, because it couldn't survive or weather this storm as a result of coronavirus, because we know we've had to shut down to a certain degree. We are not living the way we're used to living. We're not doing the things we're used to doing. What do
Mhm.
you say to people right now who are being touched by COVID and trying to remain hopeful in this COVID storm?
Well, first of all, thank God that 46 took over from 45,
Amen to that.
presidentially speaking, because, President Trump was a scourge on, our nation, a cancer to our political system
Mhm,
in so many ways, and not the least of which is his tragic mishandling
mhm.
of the coronavirus crisis
Yeah,
that COVID 19 could have been tamped down on significantly. It
yeah,
was not his fault that the virus arrived.
yeah.
It was his fault that the virus thrived in the way that it did in America. It could have been taken care of if earlier he had listened to scientists like Dr. Birx and especially Dr. Fauci,
Yeah.
who were insistent that we wear masks, that we socially distance, that we don't do some of the dumb things that President Trump encouraged us to do. Very lax about the wearing of masks, even though he himself endured this vicious disease.
Mhm,
Immediately in the aftermath, snatched his mask off, took a dangerous tour, even when he was, hospitalized at Walter Reed Hospital, where veterans are treated and the presidents are as well, and taking a ride around exposing the Secret Service and other, officials to his COVID because he wasn't wearing a mask at all times inside that car. A man who was anti science, a man who was filled with conspiracy theory, the QAnon conspiratorial thinking that recently got Marjorie Greene censored and really put off of committees by the Democratic led, Congress. And what a shame, almost to a man and woman, the Republicans voted to keep Marjorie Greene in her committee, on her committee assignments.
mhm,
So I'm tired of hearing this. Oh no, everybody who voted for Trump is not a racist, and those who sided with him are not racist. Well, here's a woman viciously, vehemently, and vigorously, besides visibly and audibly, spewing
mhm,
some of the worst racist, the worst anti-democratic, and the worst anti-American pap and conspiracy, and yet the Republicans stood
This
by
is
her.
your
Yes, Kevin
moment.
McCarthy,
Express
the
yourself.
leader of
Let
the
your voice be
Republicans in the
heard. This
House,
is your
the minority leader,
moment.
said,
The
yeah,
time has
well,
come to
I
share it
condemn what
with
she
the
said, but
world.
he
This
refused.
is your moment. Express yourself. Let your voice be heard. This is your moment. The time has come with the Latoya Foster Show.
Before Michael Eric Dyson became a minister, a civil rights leader, a national best-selling author, an author of 23 books, there was a journey. God knows it was a journey. What a journey it was. But wait until you hear how he got to the other side of that journey and what he believes it takes to become successful. Take a look. And Dr. Dyson, I have to ask you, because you're always so optimistic, so hopeful, so full of life.
Mhm.
You are a successful person. You're a successful image. When people see you, they see political commentator, they see national best-selling author, author of 23 books, 7 national bestsellers, minister, professor, and the list goes on and on. Husband, father, all of it, successful, right?
Mhm.
They see the success. Can you talk about the challenges that you might have faced along the way before you got to this moment of everything that we see today, all of the wins and all of the successes? Can you
Yes,
talk a little bit about the journey to get there and some of the obstacles you might have faced before
ma'am.
you got to this moment?
Yes, ma'am. Well, very briefly, I got a scholarship out to go to a private school, one of the best private schools in America. I'd never gone to school with white kids before. I was in a segregated, city and system of education in Detroit, and got a chance, got a scholarship, went out there, got kicked out, went back to the hood, to the
Uh-oh.
ghetto. with my tail between my legs, thinking, man, because of a lot of reasons. I'd never gone to school with white kids that did some racist stuff. I made some poor choices. Boom, got kicked out. Then became, worked for 4 years, hustling on the streets, became a teen father,
Oh, wow.
got married to a woman. I was 18, she was 26. We had our son. I ain't saying it was a shotgun wedding, but a revolver was in the room. So the thing is that, got married, got quickly divorced. When she told me she didn't love me, and I said, dang, and I didn't think as a Christian I should be getting a divorce. I was young in my faith, didn't understand the complexities and nuances. 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, then 21. I said, I got to go back to college.
Hmm.
You know, went to a historically black college named Knoxville College,
Okay.
and then worked in a factory before that, during that time. Also, pastored 3 different churches, got kicked out of school because I was protesting at the white school, the lack of black speakers, and then went to pastor a church and got kicked out the black church because
Oh,
I was trying to ordain 3 women as deacons. So all along the way, bumps and obstacles, impediments and barriers that might have prevented me from flourishing, but I kept at it, kept believing in God. People kept believing in me. I
mm.
believed in my dream, my aspiration. And so then went back to school and got a PhD from Princeton University and been teaching and struggling and striving and trying to do the right thing. So despite those odds packed against me, stacked against me, trying to, buffet me, I was determined to keep going and to succeed
This is your
irregardless.
moment. Express yourself. Let your voice be heard. This is your moment. The time has come with the Latoya Foster Show.
I don't know about you all, but I'm feeling optimistic, I'm feeling hopeful, I'm feeling blessed, and I am confident that our best days lie ahead. Reverend Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, all the biggest, warmest hugs ever. Thank you so much for joining us here on This Is Your Moment. Dr. Dyson is family. He will be back soon to join us here. And wait until you meet his wife in the coming weeks. She's going to have some nuggets to drop as well, and you will not want to miss that. We couldn't do this without Kevin Adele, the Word Network, and WADL. We cannot thank you enough for this very moment. We are so humbled and we are so honored. Please become a partner with the Word Network. They're doing great things across the globe, and you want to be a part of that. And we thank you for your support of This Is Your Moment. We appreciate your emails. We appreciate all of your contributions. We're doing big things in the community. We have video we're going to be sharing with you very soon. You can be a part of that movement as well. You can send us a cash app to $TOYA0120. Again, $TOYA0120, or email us for other payment options. And those letters, keep them coming. LatoyaFoster14@gmail.com. LatoyaFoster14@gmail.com. Until we meet again next week, stay prayed up, stay blessed, stay hopeful, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Take good care.